Mbeki stood at the edge of her small hut, her gaze fixed on the setting sun that bathed the village of Ndimba in golden light. Her hands, roughened by years of labor, rested on her hips. Though her face carried the soft lines of age and wisdom, it was her eyes that revealed the depth of her loneliness, eyes that had long since learned to mask their pain behind a veil of quiet dignity. In Ndimba, Mbeki was known for her unyielding kindness. She often shared her meager harvest with struggling neighbors, tended to the sick, and spoke words of comfort to those in despair. But her generosity did little to shield her from the whispers that followed her like shadows. Childless and widowed, she was an anomaly in a village where family and lineage defined one's worth. "What's the use of a woman who cannot bear children?" the village women would murmur as she passed. The words were sharp, meant to wound, and they succeeded more often than Mbeki cared to admit. Yet, she refused to let their cruelty break her spirit. Instead, she sought refuge in her faith, finding solace in quiet prayers whispered under the star-studded sky. Her late husband, Keto, had adored her, and their love had been a bond stronger than any societal expectation. But his untimely death had left her vulnerable, a lone figure in a community that viewed her as incomplete. Each day, she prayed for strength, not for acceptance from those who scorned her, but to endure their disdain with grace. One evening, as Mbeki sat by the hearth, the crackling fire casting flickering shadows on the walls of her hut, a knock startled her. Visitors were rare, and she hesitated before opening the door. Standing before her was an elder she did not recognize, cloaked in a robe that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. His face was weathered, yet his eyes sparkled with a mysterious vitality. "May I sit with you, daughter?" he asked, his voice deep and resonant. Mbeki stepped aside, gesturing for him to enter. "You are welcome in my home, elder." They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the gentle crackle of the fire. Finally, the elder spoke. "You have endured much, Mbeki. But know this, your story is not yet finished." She frowned, uncertain what to make of his words. "What do you mean, elder?" "Change is coming," he replied enigmatically. "It will not erase your pain, but it will transform it. Trust in the path that unfolds before you." Before she could ask more, the elder rose and, with a slight bow, left as suddenly as he had appeared. Mbeki stood at the doorway, staring into the night, her heart a curious mix of hope and apprehension. Who was this man, and what did his cryptic message mean? As the village lights flickered out one by one, Mbeki returned to her hearth. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a future where her life might hold more than suffering, where perhaps, against all odds, the whispers of the villagers might one day be silenced. That night, Mbeki's sleep was uneasy, filled with visions that shimmered with an otherworldly glow. In her dream, she stood in a vast, open field, the earth beneath her feet dry and cracked. The sky above was heavy with clouds, but no rain fell. As she wondered, a divine figure appeared before her, a radiant presence cloaked in flowing golden robes, their face obscured by a soft light. "Mbeki," the figure said, their voice resonating like a chorus, "you have endured the scorn of many, yet your heart remains pure. This seed I offer you is a symbol of hope. Plant it with patience and faith, and it will reveal your destiny." In their outstretched hand lay a single golden seed, shimmering like a droplet of sunlight. Mbeki hesitated, her fingers trembling as she accepted the seed. "Where shall I plant it?" she asked. "Where your heart feels its longing most deeply," the figure replied. "And remember, not all will understand your path, but faith will guide you." The dream faded, and Mbeki awoke with a start. The memory of the divine figure lingered like a warm echo in her heart. When she glanced at her bedside, she gasped. There, resting on her wooden table, was the golden seed from her dream. The next morning, Mbeki walked to a barren patch of land just beyond the village. The soil here was dry and unforgiving, a place long abandoned by farmers. Yet, as she stood in the emptiness, she felt an inexplicable pull in her chest, a certainty that this was where the seed belonged. She knelt, dug a small hole with her hands, and placed the seed into the earth. Closing her eyes, she whispered a prayer of faith, pouring all her hopes and pain into the act. Each day thereafter, she tended the spot diligently, watering it with what little water she could spare and offering prayers as the divine figure had instructed. The villagers, seeing her labor over what seemed a futile endeavor, were quick to ridicule her. Only Mbeki would waste her time planting a single seed in that desolate ground, one woman sneered. "She's chasing dreams instead of facing reality," another added with a laugh. Mbeki heard their jeers but refused to let them shake her resolve. The memory of the divine figure's words gave her strength. She focused on her rituals, pouring love and faith into the barren soil. Weeks passed with no sign of life. Just as doubts began to creep into her mind, something miraculous happened. One morning, Mbeki arrived at the field to find a tiny green sprout breaking through the dry earth. Her heart swelled with a mixture of relief and awe. Day by day, the sprout grew, defying the hostile soil and the laughter of the villagers. In time, the seed grew into a tree unlike anything Ndimba had ever seen. Its bark shimmered with a silvery hue, and its branches stretched skyward as if in prayer. From these branches bloomed radiant blossoms, their petals glowing faintly even in the dark. The tree exuded a soft fragrance that seemed to soothe all who approached it. The villagers, once mocking, now stood in awe. They whispered among themselves, unsure whether to attribute the marvel to magic, the divine, or Mbeki's unyielding determination. For Mbeki, the tree was more than a miracle, it was a testament to the power of faith and resilience. Standing beneath the radiant blossoms, she felt a stirring within her heart. The elder's words echoed in her mind, "Your story is not yet finished." Months had passed since the mysterious tree took root in the barren soil. Its blossoms now bore golden fruit, each one glowing faintly as if holding the light of 1,000 sunsets. Villagers often gathered around the tree, marveling at its beauty but too fearful to touch its sacred fruit. They whispered that it was a gift from the ancestors or perhaps a curse, though no one could be certain. One evening, as the moon rose high in the sky, the elder who had first visited Mbeki returned. She found him seated beneath the tree, the silvery bark gleaming in the moonlight. "Elder," Mbeki greeted, bowing her head in respect. "The tree has grown beyond anything I could have imagined. What does it mean?" The elder's eyes sparkled with warmth and wisdom. "This tree is a reflection of your spirit, Mbeki. Where others saw only barrenness, you nurtured life. It is time for you to partake in the fruit of your labor." He reached up and plucked one of the golden fruits, its glow intensifying as it rested in his hand. "Eat this, and the emptiness you have carried will be filled. But be warned, this gift will not come without challenges." Mbeki hesitated, the weight of his words settling on her. Yet, her faith and the deep yearning in her heart overpowered her fear. Taking the fruit from the elder, she bit into it. The taste was unlike anything she had ever known, sweet and warm, like sunlight made tangible. As she finished the fruit, a surge of energy coursed through her body, leaving her breathless. She turned to the elder, but he was already gone, leaving her alone beneath the glowing tree. Days later, Mbeki awoke feeling a strange fullness in her belly, a sensation she had never known before. Slowly, realization dawned, she was with child. Her heart raced with joy and disbelief. After years of ridicule and loneliness, she had been blessed with the one thing she had thought impossible. The news spread quickly through the village, igniting a mix of emotions. Some villagers were skeptical, convinced that Mbeki had resorted to witchcraft. Others were jealous, muttering that such a blessing should have been theirs. But there were also those who saw her pregnancy as a divine miracle, a sign that Mbeki was favored by higher powers. Despite the swirling gossip, Mbeki remained steadfast in her gratitude and faith. She tended to the tree daily, finding peace beneath its radiant branches. As her belly grew, so did her resolve to protect the life she carried. On the night of the child's birth, the sky over Ndimba erupted with celestial phenomena. The stars seemed to dance, casting brilliant patterns of light across the land. A comet streaked across the heavens, its tail leaving a shimmering trail that lingered long after it disappeared. The villagers gathered outside their homes, staring in awe at the spectacle, whispering that the heavens were celebrating Mbeki's child. Inside her hut, Mbeki labored through the night, surrounded by a few kind-hearted women who had come to assist. At the stroke of midnight, a cry pierced the air, the first sound of her newborn daughter. The child, named Naledi, meaning star, was unlike any other. Her skin was smooth as silk, and her eyes sparkled like the tree's golden fruit. As she lay in Mbeki's arms, a soft light seemed to emanate from her tiny body, filling the room with warmth. Word of Naledi's birth spread like wildfire. The villagers, drawn by curiosity and wonder, gathered outside Mbeki's hut. When she stepped outside, cradling her glowing child, a hush fell over the crowd. Even the most skeptical among them could not deny that this was no ordinary child. "This is the work of the divine," someone murmured. "She is a gift to us all," another added. Though some jealousy and doubt lingered, the sight of Naledi began to soften even the hardest of hearts. For the first time in years, Mbeki felt a tentative sense of belonging. She stood tall, her child in her arms, a living testament to resilience, faith, and the possibility of miracles. As the villagers bowed their heads in reverence, Mbeki gazed at the glowing tree in the distance, its blossoms swaying gently in the night breeze. She whispered a silent prayer of gratitude, knowing that her journey, though filled with trials, had led her to this moment of unparalleled joy. Little did she know, Naledi's arrival was only the beginning of a greater destiny, one that would change the fate of Ndimba forever. Naledi's hidden powers. Naledi grew quickly, her radiance shining brighter with each passing year. From the moment she could walk, her presence seemed to command both wonder and unease in the village of Ndimba. Her laugh was as melodic as birdsong, and wherever she stepped, flowers seemed to sprout, defying the season. Animals flocked to her, their instincts sensing the purity in her spirit. By the time she was 5, it was clear that Naledi was no ordinary child. She possessed a wisdom far beyond her years, often speaking with a clarity that left adults in stunned silence. But it was her ability to heal that set her apart. It began subtly, placing her tiny hands on a bird with a broken wing, which moments later took flight again. Soon, the villagers began to notice her gift. One day, Mbeki found her daughter kneeling beside a sickly calf that belonged to a neighbor. The animal had been on the verge of death, its labored breathing slowing. Naledi rested her hands gently on its head, humming softly. Within moments, the calf rose to its feet, its strength restored. Word of the event spread quickly, and whispers of both admiration and suspicion began to swirl through Ndimba. As Naledi's abilities became more apparent, the reactions of the villagers grew polarized. Some were in awe of her gifts, claiming she was a blessing sent to heal the village. "She is a child of the heavens," they would say, bowing their heads in respect when they saw her. These villagers brought their ailing children and livestock to Mbeki's hut, pleading for Naledi's touch. But others were less accepting. "No one has power like that without paying a price," one elder muttered darkly. "This is not natural, it's witchcraft." The skepticism turned to jealousy in some hearts. The same villagers who had mocked Mbeki for her barrenness now viewed her with envy, resenting the miraculous child they believed should have been born into their own families. One fateful evening, a desperate father named Kosi approached Mbeki's home. His wife, Amali, had been bedridden for months with a mysterious illness that no healer could cure. Her body was frail, her skin ashen, and her breath shallow. Kosi, driven by love and despair, begged Mbeki to let Naledi try to heal her. You've heard what they say, Kosi pleaded. If there's even a chance that your child can save her, I'll risk the whispers. Mbeki hesitated, knowing that the act might deepen the villagers' divisions. But Naledi stepped forward, her young face solemn. I will help her, she said with quiet certainty. That night, Mbeki and Naledi visited Kosi's home. The hut was filled with the scent of herbs and smoke, a futile attempt to cleanse the sickness. Naledi knelt beside Amali's frail form and placed her hands on the woman's chest. She closed her eyes, humming the same melody she had sung to the calf. The air in the room grew warm, and a faint golden light emanated from Naledi's hands. Moments later, Amali's eyes fluttered open. Color returned to her cheeks, and she sat up, gasping as though taking her first breath in months. Kosi fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. You've saved her, he cried, gripping Naledi's hands. How can we ever repay you? News of Amali's recovery spread like wildfire, solidifying Naledi's reputation as both a miracle worker and a figure of suspicion. Those who admired her began to bring gifts of gratitude, baskets of fruit, woven fabrics, and livestock. But those who envied her began to grow restless, their distrust deepening. She wields powers that should belong to the ancestors, one villager muttered. What happens when she uses them against us? She's too young to control such abilities, another added. This is dangerous. Despite the growing tension, Naledi remained steadfast in her compassion. She continued to help those in need, never asking for anything in return. But Mbeki began to worry for her daughter's safety. At night, she prayed under the glowing tree, seeking guidance on how to protect Naledi from the mounting fear and envy that threatened to overshadow her gift. As the days passed, Mbeki and Naledi both sensed that their journey was far from over. The tree in the barren field, now towering and full of golden fruit, seemed to glow brighter with each miracle Naledi performed. It was as if the tree itself was connected to her powers, its roots and branches intertwined with her destiny. But the villagers' whispers grew louder, and Mbeki knew that the balance of admiration and suspicion could not hold forever. Deep down, she feared that a storm was brewing, one that would test not only Naledi's strength but the bonds of the entire village. Naledi, however, remained unshaken. The tree grows because it is meant to, she told her mother one night. And so do I. Mbeki held her daughter close, marveling at her bravery. But in her heart, she prayed for the wisdom to guide Naledi through the trials that lay ahead, knowing that the miracle child's destiny would forever change the village of Ndimba, betrayal and sacrifice. Naledi's presence had become a beacon of hope for many in Ndimba, but for others, it was a growing threat. Among those harboring doubt was Dinio, a trusted neighbor who had once been among Mbeki's few allies. Dinio's envy had festered over the years, fueled by the belief that Naledi's gifts made the rest of the villagers seem insignificant in comparison. It's unnatural, Dinio muttered one evening to a small circle of like-minded villagers. What if her powers aren't a blessing but a curse? What if she's taking something from us to give to others? The whispers of fear and suspicion soon grew into a dangerous conspiracy. Dinio, driven by jealousy and convinced she was acting in the village's best interest, sought the help of a reclusive diviner known for crafting cursed objects. She returned days later with a seemingly ordinary bracelet, one enchanted to strip Naledi of her powers when won. Mbeki, ever attuned to the undercurrents of danger, began to have troubling dreams. In her sleep, she saw shadows creeping toward her daughter, their intentions shrouded in malice. One dream stood out vividly, a snake coiling around Naledi, its fangs poised above her radiant heart. Mbeki awoke in a cold sweat, her heart pounding. The next morning, she pulled Naledi aside. My child, be wary of those who seem friendly but carry dark intentions. I've seen danger in my dreams, and I fear for you. Naledi, wise beyond her years, nodded solemnly. I'll be careful, Mama. But remember, light can't be hidden from those who truly seek it. The betrayal unfolded during a village gathering to celebrate the harvest. Dinyo approached Naledi with the cursed bracelet, her face a mask of feigned warmth. "Naledi, I had this made for you. It's a gift, a symbol of how much you mean to us." Naledi hesitated, sensing something amiss. But the gathered villagers watched expectantly, their faces a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Not wanting to seem ungrateful, she accepted the bracelet and slipped it onto her wrist. Almost immediately, Naledi's glow dimmed. The vibrant energy that surrounded her seemed to dissipate, like sunlight hidden behind storm clouds. She staggered, her young body suddenly frail. Mbeki, watching from across the gathering, rushed to her daughter's side. "What have you done?" Mbeki demanded, her voice trembling with fury and fear. But Dinyo merely stepped back, her expression unreadable. In the days that followed, the village descended into chaos. Without Naledi's healing touch, crops withered, livestock sickened, and a sense of despair gripped the people. The once united village now splintered into factions, those who mourned Naledi's diminished power and those who believed her downfall was deserved. Mbeki's heart ached as she watched her daughter struggle. The radiant child who had once brought life and hope to the village now seemed small and fragile, her light nearly extinguished. Yet, Naledi's spirit remained unbroken. "Mama," Naledi said one evening as they sat beneath the glowing tree, "I can still feel the power within me. It's faint, but it's there. The tree's light hasn't left us." Mbeki nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we must fight to reclaim what is yours. The tree gave you this gift, and no curse can take it away forever." Driven by love and desperation, Mbeki confronted Dinyo, demanding the truth. At first, Dinyo denied everything, but under the weight of Mbeki's piercing gaze and the mounting guilt in her heart, she confessed. "I thought I was protecting the village," Dinyo said, tears streaming down her face. "But I see now that I was wrong. I let envy blind me." Realizing the damage she had caused, Dinyo revealed that the curse could only be undone through an act of pure sacrifice, one that would reaffirm Naledi's bond with the tree. Mbeki knew what had to be done. That night, Mbeki brought Naledi to the tree. Beneath its glowing branches, Mbeki knelt and prayed with all her heart. She offered herself to the tree, pleading for it to restore her daughter's powers. As she spoke, the tree began to glow brighter, its light enveloping them both. "Mama, no!" Naledi cried, sensing the gravity of her mother's sacrifice. But Mbeki smiled, her eyes full of love. "Your light is meant to guide this village, Naledi. My purpose has always been to protect you." As the tree's light reached its peak, a surge of energy coursed through Naledi, restoring her strength. Her glow returned, brighter than ever, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose. When the light faded, Mbeki was still there, though visibly weakened. The tree, now bearing even more fruit, stood as a testament to their unbreakable bond. Naledi's powers, now fully restored, brought healing and hope back to the village. Though some still harbored doubts, the majority of the villagers began to understand the true value of her gift and the strength of the woman who had nurtured it. Mbeki, though frail, stood tall beside her daughter, knowing that her sacrifice had secured a brighter future not only for Naledi but for the entire village. Yet, deep within her heart, she knew that this was not the end of their journey. The trials had only just begun, the mother's redemption. The glow of the radiant tree still lit the barren field outside Ndimba, but Mbeki could feel that Naledi's powers, though restored, were incomplete. Her daughter's light faltered at times, dimming when she tried to heal or communicate with nature. The once boundless energy seemed constrained, as if something vital had been severed. Mbeki knew deep in her heart that the tree's blessing needed to be renewed. One night, as she sat beneath its shimmering branches, Mbeki whispered a prayer to the ancestors. "Guide me to restore what has been lost." Show me how to protect my daughter's gift. In her sleep, a vision came. She saw a path winding through dense forest, leading to the sacred mountains far beyond Ndimba. There, she was told, lay the river of origins, guarded by a powerful goddess. The journey would be perilous, filled with trials designed to test her resolve and faith. When Mbeki awoke, she knew what she had to do. The journey to the sacred mountains. At dawn, Mbeki prepared for her journey. She carried only what was necessary, a small bundle of food, a flask of water, and the pendant Keto had given her on their wedding day, her most cherished possession. She kissed Naledi's forehead, promising to return. Be strong, my star, Mbeki said. I do this for you and for the light you bring to the world. Naledi nodded, her young face solemn. I'll wait for you, Mama. The tree will keep us safe. The path to the sacred mountains was as treacherous as the vision had warned. Mbeki braved dense thickets, her skin scratched by thorny branches. She crossed rivers that ran swift and cold, her feet aching from the unforgiving rocks. Along the way, she encountered visions, ghostly figures that seemed to rise from the mist. The first vision was of her late husband, Keto. He stood in a sunlit field, smiling as he reached for her. Why do you struggle so, Mbeki? He asked. You've done enough. Come and rest. Mbeki's heart ached with longing, but she shook her head. I cannot. Naledi needs me. Our daughter's light must shine for all to see. Keto's image faded, leaving her feeling both sorrow and strength. The second vision was of the villagers, their faces twisted with scorn. You'll never be enough, they jeered. No matter what you do, they'll turn against you. Mbeki's steps faltered, the weight of their words pressing on her. But then she remembered Naledi's unwavering love and her faith in the tree's blessing. Lifting her chin, she pressed on. The river of origins. After days of travel, Mbeki reached the sacred mountains. Nestled within their peaks was the river of origins, its waters glowing with an ethereal light. At its edge stood the river goddess, her form shifting between human and elemental, her voice like the rush of water over stone. You have come far, Mbeki, the goddess said. But to restore what has been lost, you must offer a sacrifice, not just any sacrifice, but one that holds the deepest part of your soul. Mbeki's hand instinctively went to the pendant around her neck. It was the last tangible connection to Keto, a symbol of their love and the strength it had given her through the darkest times. She hesitated, her fingers trembling. If you do not give fully, the goddess warned, the light you seek to restore will remain incomplete. Tears streaming down her face, Mbeki unclasped the pendant and held it in her hands. This is my heart, she whispered. It has guided me through grief, through ridicule, and through loneliness. Without it, I am bare. But for Naledi, for her light, I give it freely. With that, she cast the pendant into the river. The water surged, glowing brighter as the pendant sank beneath its surface. The redemption. The river's glow enveloped Mbeki, lifting her off the ground. She felt warmth and peace, as though the ancestors themselves were embracing her. Visions of her life played before her. The pain of childlessness, the ridicule of the villagers, the joy of Naledi's birth. A voice echoed within her, not the goddess's but her own, filled with clarity and conviction. My worth was never in the eyes of others. It was always in my love, my faith, and my resilience. When the light faded, Mbeki found herself standing on the riverbank, the goddess smiling. You have proven your heart, the goddess said. Naledi's powers will flourish, but your journey does not end here. You must guide her, for her destiny is greater than you know. The river gifted Mbeki a small vial of its glowing waters. This will sustain her when doubt clouds her light, the goddess said. And it will remind you of your strength. The return to Ndimba. When Mbeki returned to Ndimba, the villagers greeted her with awe. She looked weary but radiant, her presence commanding respect. Under the glowing tree, she poured a single drop of the river's water into Naledi's palm. The transformation was immediate. Naledi's light blazed brighter than ever, her powers not only restored but amplified. The villagers, witnessing the miracle, fell to their knees, their doubts dissolving into reverence. "Mama," Naledi said, her voice filled with wonder, "you've given me more than I can ever repay." Mbeki smiled, holding her daughter close. "You are my heart, Naledi. That is all I've ever needed." As the tree's branches swayed in the wind, glowing with celestial light, Mbeki knew she had redeemed not only Naledi's powers but also her own place in the world. The mother and daughter stood together, their bond unbreakable, ready to face whatever destiny awaited them, the rising star. The morning after Naledi's powers were fully restored, the village of Ndimba awoke to a sense of renewal. The radiant tree at the edge of the village seemed more vibrant than ever, its golden blossoms casting a warm glow over the once barren field. Beneath its branches, Naledi stood with Mbeki, their silhouettes bathed in light. For the first time, Naledi's presence no longer divided the villagers. The miraculous return of her powers, coupled with the story of Mbeki's journey to the sacred mountains, had silenced even the most skeptical among them. In their eyes, Mbeki and Naledi were no longer outcasts but blessings, a mother and daughter chosen by divine forces to guide their community. Healing the village. With her powers amplified, Naledi set to work healing Ndimba, not just its people but the land itself. She walked among the fields, her hands grazing the soil, and crops began to grow where the earth had once been barren. Rivers flowed clearer, livestock grew stronger, and the village flourished. Naledi's healing extended beyond the physical. She spoke to the villagers about unity and compassion, using her own life as a testament to the power of resilience and love. "We are strongest when we stand together," she told them. "Jealousy and fear weaken us, but kindness and understanding can transform even the hardest hearts." Her words, spoken with the wisdom of someone far beyond her years, resonated deeply. Families that had feuded for generations reconciled, and the community began to rebuild itself on a foundation of trust and empathy. Mbeki's redemption. For Mbeki, watching her daughter thrive brought a peace she had never known. The ridicule and loneliness she had endured for so many years seemed distant now, replaced by the respect and gratitude of the villagers. Women who had once mocked her now sought her advice, and elders who had doubted her approached her with humility. One day, the village gathered under the radiant tree to honor Mbeki and Naledi. Kosi, the man whose wife Naledi had saved, stood before the crowd. "We were wrong to doubt you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You have shown us that miracles are not born from power alone, but from love, faith, and perseverance. Mbeki, you are the heart of this village, and Naledi is its guiding light." The villagers knelt before them, offering gifts of gratitude, baskets of fruit, woven cloths, and ornaments crafted with care. Mbeki, though humbled, accepted their gestures with grace. Ndimba's transformation. Under Naledi's guidance, Ndimba transformed into a beacon of hope for neighboring villages. People traveled from far and wide to seek her healing touch and to witness the radiant tree that had become a symbol of the village's rebirth. Naledi never hoarded her gifts. She taught the villagers how to work together to heal their own land, how to care for one another, and how to find strength in unity. Slowly, the lessons of compassion and resilience spread, reaching communities far beyond Ndimba. A mother's pride. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Mbeki and Naledi sat beneath the glowing tree, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. The villagers' laughter and songs filled the air, a testament to the joy that had returned to Ndimba. "Mama," Naledi said, resting her head on Mbeki's shoulder, "I couldn't have done any of this without you. Your strength gave me mine." Mbeki smiled, her heart full. "And you gave me a purpose, my star." You've turned my pain into something beautiful. That is your gift, not just healing but transforming the heart of everyone you touch. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Mbeki felt a profound sense of peace. She had endured ridicule, loneliness, and unimaginable trials, but through it all, she had never lost her faith. Now, she saw her daughter's light shining not just for her but for an entire village, and beyond. Her journey was complete, but Naledi's was just beginning. Mbeki knew that her daughter's legacy would endure, a reminder that even the most barren soil could give rise to miracles. And so, under the canopy of the radiant tree, Mbeki closed her eyes, content in the knowledge that she had fulfilled her purpose and that her star would continue to shine for generations to come.